What's up, guys? Welcome back to today's episode of The Sports Sermon. We are brought to you by Scooch, the most functional phone case on the market. Check out ScoochCase.com to get yours today and use the code SPORTS18, sports with a Z, of course, to get a 10% discount on your order. Stay tuned till the end for a special Scooch giveaway as well. But now, today's episode.
And welcome inside the Sports Sermon, and welcome into our Week 1 NFL preview. It is finally football season. We had a college football opening weekend last week, and now it is NFL time. Be sure and stay tuned for a college football podcast coming out weekly also. We're going to try to put out a preview for college football and NFL, and then a recap once those weekend games are over. But to give you a little preview of today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple games that Jason and I both like, the best odds to bet on this weekend on a team, and then just a quick sleeper and bust for fantasy football. So let's get into it. Jason, what is your first game to watch for this weekend?
Yeah, so first game, 1 o'clock game. I think this game probably has some of the best storylines that you'll get in Week 1 in terms of matchups. You look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and New York Giants. That's the game I'm rolling with. Let's go with the obvious one. Odell Beckham Jr., Jalen Ramsey. Both like to talk. We all know Jalen Ramsey makes a bunch of comments. We both know Odell Beckham Jr. likes to get into it with guys. We remember the Josh Norman and OBJ issues. We heard Jalen Ramsey in about June or July say that Odell's one of the best, I'm one of the best, it's going to be a great matchup. Really hasn't said anything too negative about Odell. That's got to be one of my favorite matchups to watch. I cannot wait to see Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham Jr. go at it every play in this game. Second one I got to go to with this game is Saquon Barkley versus the Jags defense. We have the number 2 overall pick. Some people thought way too high for running back. Not so fast. One of the best players in this draft that we've seen in a long time. Saquon Barkley comes into a loaded offense, in my opinion. He's going to go behind a revamped offensive line and go up against one of the best defenses in the league in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cannot wait to see that. And there's 2 more, actually. The third matchup I want to talk about is the quarterbacks, Eli Manning and Blake Bortles. Dylan, what are the 2 narratives on both those guys?
Need to prove something.
They suck. Let's just put it out there. People say they suck. This is going to be a crucial first game. Who can get on top? Does Eli have a resurgence for this Giants team? Does Blake Bortles follow up what he did against the Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots in the playoffs? Or do we see more of the Blake Bortles versus the Bills where he can't complete a pass that's 4 yards away? That's what I want to see there. And then my last one, Tom Coughlin. Coaching against his Giants, there was talk that the Jags might trade for Eli Manning last offseason, then maybe this offseason. Who knew? He stayed put. Tom Coughlin playing his old team. This game has so many storylines. I cannot wait for Jags-Giants, 1 o'clock Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, that should be interesting. My first game that I want to throw out is also a 1 o'clock Sunday game. Houston and New England, the return of Deshaun Watson. What can he do out on the field? Visiting the Patriots at Foxborough Week 1. I honestly think the Patriots take a step back this year. So another thing to watch out for this year. And there's just so many questions with Houston. Their defense. They were all injured last year. Can they come back and be what they were from a couple years ago? The offense had so much potential with Deshaun Watson. If everything works out for this Texans team, they could be really scary. And hopefully we get some of those questions answered in Week 1. That'll be an exciting one to watch.
Yeah, I think you look at the Texans-Patriots game, both those teams are going in opposite directions, I feel like. The Texans, up and coming. People are picking them as that hot team that might, I've heard some people say as far as the Super Bowl. But then you look at the Patriots. People are starting to get off that bandwagon. Yes, they have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but really what else do they have? Sony Michel's still banged up. Rex Burkhead, James White, Jeremy Hill. All those guys form an okay running back. Then you look at the receivers. Julian Edelman, suspended. Chris Hogan is the only guy that really is worth mentioning. They signed Eric Decker. He retired. They signed Malcolm Mitchell. He got cut. They had Brandon Cooks last year. He's gone. So this receiving corps is probably the worst that Tom Brady's ever had to deal with. And I would honestly probably say like for these first 4 games without Edelman, probably bottom 5 in the league, with Hogan being their number 1. Tight end, obviously you get Gronk, but who knows how healthy he's going to be. I agree with you, though. This is going to be a heck of a game because the Texans, they need to start out hot because what is Deshaun Watson? He played how many games? Like 8? 4?
6?
So, okay, somewhere in the middle of... that's fine, yeah. So, played a few games, was one of the best players in all of football last year, one of the most transcendent players. Then he gets hurt. Is he going to be able to match that production? Is he going to be able to come even close to that? This is his second ACL tear, if I'm not mistaken, so... It's not like this was a fluke necessarily, not to give any say that this is going to happen again, just for what it's worth. This is a second one. I cannot wait for these games. I'm just so excited for NFL football. We are 2 days away when we're recording this. Eagles, Falcons. That's another game I just want to bring up real fast. Eagles, Nick Foles. He's going to get the start. I personally am under the belief he is not a good starting quarterback. Yes, he's a Super Bowl MVP, and I forget what podcast I was listening to, but they mentioned something along the lines of he's a great backup, and the more and more you play him, the less and less good of a quarterback he becomes because he's only got a certain amount of shelf life, I think was the word they used. And I think that's very interesting. Can Nick Foles produce starting this season off? Then the Falcons, they really disappointed last year. Are they going to be able to bounce back? Steve Sarkisian with the second year. That's kind of like my first and a half game I wanted to mention, just because it's Thursday night. It's our first game.
Yeah,
super excited.
I don't know. For the Eagles, I could definitely see a Super Bowl hangover.
For sure.
Especially if Nick Foles has to play more than just this week. I'm definitely buying the Falcons on Thursday night.
Like you're picking them, or you mean like you're buying them like as a potential win? Like what do you mean by like you're buying them?
I would pick the Falcons for sure.
Yeah.
On Thursday night.
I mean, I think I've seen people say the Eagles don't get back to the playoffs. Like I don't think this Eagles team is as strong as they were last year because of the Super Bowl hangover, which isn't really anything tangible, but they hung Super Bowl stuff in their locker room. Like I
don't know. I still, they have too much talent on this team.
But the NFC is so loaded. I mean, the one team that I really don't like that has a lot of talent in this team is the Packers. The Packers versus Eagles would be a heck of a game, even though I don't think they have much talent. Heck of a game. You get the Lions, the Vikings, the Bears just got Khalil Mack. Then you go in the NFC South. Any of those 3 teams got a shot, minus the Bucks. NFC West, Rams, Niners, Cardinals. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in the NFC. I don't know. I don't think the Eagles are a lock to repeat to where they were. I'm going to go to my second game, though. I know I kind of put that one in there. Second game, it's the last game of Week 1. It's my Oakland Raiders at home, Chucky's return versus the Los Angeles Rams. Few matchups I want to point out here. When I was picking these games, I was looking at matchups and storylines. What do I want to see? Obviously, the first one, John Gruden's back. No one can debate he was one of the best coaches in his era. Probably one of the best of all time, not by wins and losses, but in terms of bringing a certain element of leadership to a team. Where he kind of faltered a little bit was personnel decisions. In Tampa Bay, we know what happened there. Now we look to Oakland. What's he done since he's been here? He's brought in a lot of veterans, which isn't always bad, but a lot of veterans. He's traded out Khalil Mack for 2 first-round picks. I don't know. That's something I think to keep an eye on. Can he coach his way to regain some Raider fans? A lot of Raider fans aren't happy with John Gruden. The best way to get him back is to win, and that's what John Gruden does best, is coach and win. If he stays out of the personnel decisions, John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders are going to have one heck of a good time together. Will he do that
with Dungy's team?
That's so false. But anyway, that's one storyline, is Chucky's return. The second one, the Los Angeles Rams. What an offseason they have had. Aaron Donald re-signing. Sean McVay getting Coach of the Year. Obviously, Todd Gurley, Jared Goff, whatever. But Ndamukong Suh, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, Brandon Cooks. Am I forgetting anyone else? Those are like the big 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All of that talent comes together, comes to L.A., the city of angels. Does that all fit together? I'm not sure. You rarely see these teams just take over as easy as this. Sean McVay, young coach, comes in, is immediately successful. Jared Goff, second year in, is immediately successful. You rarely see this. Are the Rams going to have to take some bumps and bruises along the way to get back to where they were? I don't know. I think that's another storyline with the Rams. Then you put these together. My third storyline for this game, the contracts. It could have been Aaron Donald versus Khalil Mack, Week 1, 2 highest paid players, but the Raiders traded them out. We're going to see how much a defensive player is worth Week 1. Does Aaron Donald wreak havoc on this depleted offensive line to a certain extent for Oakland? Does he come in and get 2-3 sacks, force a fumble, and basically stick up for all of the defensive players and say, look, we are important? Or can John Gruden's offense outperform the Rams, kind of upset them on Monday night, and show that Khalil Mack, we didn't really need him? So those are this is a huge game for me. I cannot wait to watch Rams, Raiders, so many storylines. Both teams could be 11-5 or 5-11 based on how up and down these franchises have been.
Rams.
You never know. And Ndamukong Suh gets in beef. Marcus Peters and Keith Tlaib have way too much personality issues.
No.
Yeah.
Not
There's
5
so
wins.
much up and down with both of these teams. The Rams, I really am not sold on just because we do not see this type of talent come together so fast and always work. We saw the Eagles in 2011, I think it was, when they called themselves a super team and then blew that up. So I'm not as sold on the Rams as everyone else. I want to see it before I believe it. The Raiders, on the other hand, people are kind of low on, but does Chucky and John Gruden's staff get the Raiders back to that 12-4 season we saw just 2 years ago?
All right, my second game is going to be Pittsburgh and Cleveland. The Browns, the hot team. Everyone thinks that they're going to improve this year.
Well, they can't not improve.
Yeah, that's true. On Hard Knocks, the final episode comes out tonight. I'm excited to see the new look Browns. Can Tyrod get it done? How much does this defense improve? And can they pull off an upset against the Steelers, who I think are going to win the Super Bowl this year in Week 1? It is at home for the Browns. Steelers are favored only by 3.5. A lot of people have belief in these Browns.
It was 6 earlier, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You didn't even mention Le'Veon Bell. Do you think he suits up?
I think he's going to be out there, and I think he'll do fine. I was going to put him as my fantasy bust earlier just because he hasn't been there. But, I mean, he always plays well against the Browns. And, I mean, are they really going to give 20 carries to James Conner?
I mean, I personally am worried about Le'Veon Bell, personally just for Week 1. You look at what he did last year. He got 10 carries for 32 yards. His long was 15, so you take out the 15, that's 9 for 17. 9 carries for 17 yards. Like, he was not very dynamic against a worse Browns team. I am kind of worried about Le'Veon Bell. Last year he struggled to get out of the gate. It really took him about I think it was the 4th week it was going to be that preseason game. If he would have played the preseason, he would have been ready to go. I think it was week 4 at Baltimore where we finally saw the Le'Veon Bell come back. I'm kind of worried about him. I don't know if he's going to play. If I had to put money on it right now, I'd probably say no. I think it's already Tuesday night. He didn't report. They asked Tomlin about what if he doesn't show up tomorrow, or what if he does show up tomorrow. He said he hadn't thought about that yet. So really, it seems like the Steelers have no idea. So it could be Thursday, Friday before he comes on, and by then he's not playing. So I think tomorrow is the big day. If he reports they've got a shot, I don't think he's going to. So I think Le'Veon Bell's out Week 1 is kind of my personal opinion, which makes this game just that much more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, let's move on to our lock of the week based on the odds for each game. So, Jason, what's your number 1 lock?
I was going through these, and I put a 14 parlay down, but the one I was most confident in has got to be the Tennessee Titans. Only favored by 1 point over the Miami Dolphins. I think the Titans are going to have a heck of a year. I have them going 10-6, I think, and making the playoffs as the 6th seed. I like what they're doing down there. Mike Vrabel comes in and whole new staff. Marcus Mariota in a make-or-break season, in my opinion. Him and Jameis Winston have to prove it. This is Mariota's year. New offense. They revamped their running backs with Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry. They got thunder and lightning down there. And their defense is sneakily good. They got Malcolm Butler, who's a big signing. People forget just how good he was. He was a top cornerback in this league, sat out of the Super Bowl, and the rest is history. I like the Titans. With only 1 point, I'm taking the Titans all day long.
Yeah, I like that pick. Dolphins, an interesting team. They're kind of hot in the preseason, but I mean, you can't really put too much stock in that.
Look at the
Titans. Home too.
Yeah, but look at the Dolphins, though. Who are you trusting on that team? Kenyon Drake was hot at the end of the year. Frank Gore, you always say, is the master of 3-yard runs or something like that? Yeah. You always say that. And then Tannehill had 1 good year 2-3 years ago. That was it. Receivers, Danny Amendola. First time he's been healthy was last year. Kenny Stills, boom or bust. Devontae Parker, as of right now, has been a bust. There's no one on this Dolphins team that really gets me excited. If they had Jarvis Landry and Jay Ajayi, we'd be having a much different conversation. But when they shift those out, I am not a fan of the Dolphins. I think they'll be picking top 5 next year.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Mine is going to be the Lions, -7 at home. Sam Darnold's
You're hating on
first
Sam
game
Darnold, yeah.
under the lights. I don't hate Sam Darnold. I think he's going to be really good in the future, but the Jets are just absolutely horrible. They've surrounded him with absolutely nothing. And in the first game, I also really like the Lions this year. So at home,
what's it?
Monday
6?
night, -7. I'm taking the Lions.
That's a lot of points. That's obviously only 7, but I don't know. I think Sam Darnold keeps it competitive. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think Sam Darnold's going to have a pretty good outing. I mean, he's played with these ones now for a few weeks. He's gotten comfortable with them. He's got one of the best veterans in all of the league, and Josh McCown does everything the right way. I don't know. I feel like I might even take the Jets +7 as a sleeper surprise. I wouldn't know if I'd call that Lions one a lock, just because you don't know what you're getting in Sam Darnold. I feel like the Jets could be a sneakily decent
him with absolutely nothing. Offensive
Isaiah Crowell, Bilal Powell. I like both of them.
I mean, their wide receivers.
Jermaine Kearse is hurt, which sucks. But Robbie Anderson's a stud. He is a definite.
Stud.
He is a number 1 receiver.
No, he's
he
not.
is a good player. Then you got Terrell Pryor, who I'm a big fan of personally, but they're not seeming to like him. I like Terrell Pryor. Quincy Enunwa was out last year with a neck injury. I don't know. If Jermaine Kearse was playing, you go Jermaine Kearse, Robbie Anderson, Terrell Pryor. I don't hate it. Obviously, they're not good. I'm not saying this is a playoff team or good by any means. I'm just saying I don't know if I would sleep on the Jets as much as I guess I like the Jets better than I like the Dolphins, is what I would say there. I would bet more on the Jets than I would the Dolphins or the Bills.
I don't like either team. Lions are my lock of the week. The Patriots just have a cakewalk in that AFC East.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's move on to fantasy. Jason, let's hear your sleeper first.
Sleeper? I'm going to go with Mike Williams. Wide receiver, Los Angeles Chargers, was drafted last year, kind of fizzled out. He had lost my respect for a certain amount, but then this offseason, he's been having a good training camp. I look at the matchup. They're playing the Chiefs. The Chiefs last year gave up the second most fantasy points to wide receivers. Dylan, what did the Chiefs get worse at this year? Defense. I think Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and probably even Tyrell Williams and Mike Williams is a flex play. I would consider putting them in all of my lineups. If I'm doing daily fantasy, I would take Tyrell Williams as a cheap sleeper. Mike Williams is my guy, though, because I think he'll be more expensive. I think he'll have a better game. Mike Williams, I would not be surprised to see 80 yards in a touchdown, maybe even 100-something yards in a touchdown or two. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams by this week, 100%. Hate the Chiefs' defense, and they traded away their best corner.
Man, but don't you think him and Tyrell Williams kind of do the same thing?
No, Mike Williams is a big body. Go get the ball. Tyrell Williams can run routes. Same thing with Travis Benjamin. Both of those guys are route runners. Where I like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen on the outsides. Keenan Allen does it all.
I mean, Tyrell Williams is pretty tall too. I mean,
just because he's tall, he's not a big body. I don't think anybody's going to say if you're giving the ball to Tyrell Williams or Mike Williams, you're giving the ball to Tyrell. Mike Williams is the legitimate number 2 there, with Hunter Henry gone. Tyrell Williams is not even getting drafted in fantasy. There's a reason for that.
Mike Williams is barely getting drafted in fantasy.
No, it's not barely. Look at professionals rankings. He's in the top 120, 130. That's getting drafted in every league. Mike Williams is definitely the number 2. You think that Tiger Williams is the number 2 in Los Angeles?
I mean, they're gonna compete with each other. They're
gonna
take
way.
away.
I don't think so at all. Especially week 1. Mike Williams is gonna have a heck of a season. Who's your guy?
My guy is gonna be John Ross.
Whoa! That's the same situation as mine. Tyler Boyd is the number 2 there and has been a good number 2.
Good.
Yes! Look at that. Did you watch the preseason?
The preseason?
Yeah, do you know what that is? Preseason football?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really put a ton of stock into the preseason, but...
Oh, John Ross's last year was really good. Tyler Boyd's a legitimate number 2.
I don't know. I like John Ross because he's exactly the kind of guy that will kill the Colts. If you're playing... daily fantasy, he's a really cheap option there. I like anybody in this Colts-Bengals game. I think it'll be an absolute shootout. So take your pick. Mine's going to be John Ross, but honestly, anybody in that game, I would like any of them.
Yeah, disagree with you on the fact that John Ross, just because I think what you just said to me is the reason I wouldn't trust him, but I agree the Bengals offense is going to be rolling. I think the Bengals defense is going to have a pretty good game too. Sneaky defense to pick up there. You don't know what you're getting in Andrew Luck. I think since these defense will be good this year, people are kind of sleeping on them in general. I like the Bengals offense. I think Joe Mixon has a good game. Gio Bernard is a good sleeper just to have on your team. I like Tyler Boyd. Obviously, you don't. AJ Green is my guy. He's starting for me in all my leagues, obviously, and getting up the depth chart right now. Tyler Boyd's listed as number 2. John Ross behind him. So, just to make my point there, Tyler Boyd's definitely the number 2 in Cincinnati. But I don't hate that pick by any means. John Ross definitely has all the potential in the world to go out and ball this year, especially Week 1 versus trash Colts defense.
All right, who's your bust of the week, Jason?
My bust is going to be Saquon Barkley, truly because of the matchup and the matchups I talked about earlier. The Jags defense, one of the best in the league. No one's going to debate that. Saquon Barkley had one good game in the preseason, tweaked his hamstring. They shut him down smartly. Not to say, I don't want to make this sound like I don't trust Saquon Barkley, don't think he's good, any of those things. We don't know what we have in him. That's just because he's a rookie. I think he'll be one of the best running backs in the league. He'll get off to a slow start, though, Week 1, in terms of where you drafted him. You drafted him 6 to be an elite RB1. I think he'll be a good RB2 Week 1 because the Jags defense is so strong. And I think you're going to see Eli trying to get the ball to Odell, trying to get Odell hot versus Jalen Ramsey, try to get that connection rolling again. I think Saquon Barkley struggles Week 1, but has a heck of a season. I would worry about Saquon Barkley as my RB1 just for Week 1.
I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. I also like him for the whole season, but he is going up against Denver's defense at Denver in Week 1. Doug Baldwin's coming off an injury, and honestly, there's not much else on the Seahawks offense to like. So I think Denver comes out and wins this game. Russell Wilson struggles, throws a couple picks, but I do like him for the rest of the season. Seattle's going to be behind. Their defense is much worse. Russell Wilson's going to have to put the team on his back this year. He's going to score a lot of points. I just don't like it this week against Denver.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't like Denver's secondary as much as I like their front 7, and so I don't see the picks as much as I see sacks, which doesn't take away from Russell Wilson. I don't know. I don't trust the secondary of the Broncos, but I think that front 7 definitely gives them fits. Doug Baldwin's been banged up this entire preseason. I think he's going to go, but for some reason he doesn't. You're not giving the ball to Brandon Marshall as your wide receiver 1. So yeah, I agree. The matchup here is a tough one for Russell Wilson to start the year off, and that's a team that also needs to get hot fast. If they're going to make any chance to playoffs, this is going to be their chance because the Seahawks are not deep this year by any means.
All right. Well, that's all we've got for today. Any last thoughts on Week 1 of the NFL?
I'm just excited to be back. I mean, I said that a bunch in this podcast. Just looking at the games we've got, obviously my Raiders I already talked about, 10-10 on Monday night. But every single time slot you've got, there is a good game. We start off with the Eagles playing the 1 o'clock games. We both mentioned the Texans, Patriots was yours. Mine was the Jags, Giants. 4 o'clock games, you've got the Cowboys versus the Cardinals. No, Cowboys versus the Panthers, sorry. Dak Prescott, Cam Newton, both guys have, I think, a pretty big season ahead of them. Josh Rosen, Sam Bradford, that whole thing. Can Bradford stay healthy at 4 o'clock? And then Seahawks Broncos that we just talked about. I think every single time slot is one heck of a game. Sunday Night Football, Bears Packers, Khalil Mack, Aaron Rodgers. The two just got paid this past week. So much good football. I cannot wait.
Oh, yeah. Definitely going to be an exciting one. Can't wait to turn on Sunday Ticket.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I love it. The Red Zone channel, definitely going to be rolling at those 1 o'clock games. Can't wait to see Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, and their shootout, potentially. That's another game I love. Vikings-Niners, what a game.
All right. That's all we've got for today, and we will see you soon after Week 1 with a review of this entire week. Should be a good one.